They took your mom?
Oh, gosh. Where's the world's smallest violin so I can play a song just for these illegals? Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. I am Sara Gonzales. Happy Friday. You can find me at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. I am wearing, I've been on this Miss America kick. I can't stop wearing it. It's a good neutral nude. Men, get your heads out of the gutter. Not that kind of nude. The makeup kind of nude. Women, you know what I'm talking about. Go get you some over at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. So what you saw over there was these poor illegals being, with these ICE raids, which, by the way, support your local ICE raids. You can find that at SarahMerch.com. Support your local ICE raids gear. Because we do. We support our law enforcement trying to clean up the streets of this country and make sure that we don't have unvetted strangers here, because that's never a good thing. And so yesterday, ICE raided a cannabis farm in California and detained over 100 people. And you have states like California, you have disgusting governors like Gavin Newsom who are fighting Donald Trump, who are fighting this administration tooth and nail every step of the way. You have LA Mayor Karen Bass, who's like, where's the manager? I want to get on the phone with the manager and tell them to stay out of my city. We're doing just fine here with all these criminals. We welcome the murderers and the gang members. We are LA after all. And so you had ICE who raided this cannabis farm, and you had all of these illegals. Oh my God, there's a bug in my cup. It's fine. Everything's fine. And you had California Governor Gavin Newsom who responded on X. And you would think like, hey, maybe don't type this on X. Maybe go clean up your state. Your state is a shithole now. Maybe you should focus on that instead. No. He wants to make a point on Twitter. He said, kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum. I'd like to believe that wasn't him. I'd like to believe that was a staffer who was like, ooh, we got a real good one here, boss. What if we say Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum, eh? I would like to believe that was just a low-level staffer and not Gavin Newsom, but then again, I don't have high hopes for Gavin Newsom. So we are supposed to feel sorry for these kids because of ICE, I guess, not because their parents put them in this position in the first place. You also had Arizona Senator Rubin Gallego, who said, of course, a pile-on. He said, instead of prioritizing dangerous criminals, Trump is targeting families that have been here for years, picking our food. The public outcry and protests are occurring because the American public knows this is wrong. Now, first of all, I'd like to just point out that this is what the left goes to, right? They're picking our food. They're picking our crops. It's just these poor people who are just picking our food because we can't possibly find any Americans. We can't possibly find any Americans who have the skills required to pick crops off of leaves and bushes. It's impossible to find Americans who will actually do that. Now, remember, guys, I actually have been in these ICE protests talking to these people who literally have said to my face, who's going to pick your crops? If that's the greatest skill you can offer, I'm sorry, you're not that valuable. You're just not. We can find someone to do it, and we don't have to talk about paying them slave labor to do so. We can just pay them actual, American wages, which you would think that everyone would be okay with. But then again, the left is stupid. And speaking of stupid, with this whole entire ordeal, Gavin Newsom conveniently left out, just a key detail in this whole raid. The farm was not only hiring these illegal aliens, they were also exploiting child labor. So it's not just slave labor, it's child slave labor, because U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott actually responded to that ridiculous tweet. and said 10 juveniles were found at this marijuana facility, all illegal aliens, 8 of them unaccompanied. It's now under investigation for child labor violations. This is Newsom's California. So I just want to ask the audience, by the way, those of you who are watching on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed. Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Those of you who are not watching on YouTube, make sure you go over to YouTube and subscribe. YouTube.com/@Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Subscribe, hit the bell. And then, by the way, tell me if you've already hit the bell, if you are getting notifications, because I hear a lot of people saying that they're still not getting notifications. I believe it, because there's a lot of screwy things going on YouTube right now. But do what you can. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, and comment. It'll help us in the algorithm. So you tell me what you think. Are you more upset and offended by ICE cleaning up our country and making sure that we don't have illegals who we don't know who they are and how they got here and what kind of background they have, making sure that we don't have illegals like all across the country? Or are you more offended by the fact that this particular marijuana farm had child slave labor, unaccompanied minors who were out there performing slave labor against the law? What are you more concerned with? Because I have a big problem with that. The left wants to tell you, oh my gosh, we're so offended by Donald Trump cleaning up the streets. No, they're just upset that their slave labor and their exploitations are actually going to cease. That's why they're upset. This is a party that pretends like they care about these people. They are the ones who care. They just want these people to come in. They're in search of a better life. They want these people to have a better life. No. They want their cheap crop pickers. They want their child slave labor. They want their maids. They want their lawnmowers. They want their roofers. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to them, because they're the ones who tell you that. They don't even realize how elitist, how snobby, how racist they sound. Who else is going to clean our houses? You had Kelly Osbourne on The View several years ago saying that. I mean, every time you give them an opportunity to talk about it, they will be the first ones to tell you they don't care at all about slave labor and exploitation. They don't care about it at all. If they did, they would be in favor of cleaning this up. Now, this particular place, the company that owns this farm, it's a company called Glass House. Now, you tell me what you are more offended by. Again, okay? Because there was also a 2024 class action lawsuit against this particular company that claimed about worker conditions, that they failed to pay wages, they gave no overtime pay, they didn't provide meal breaks, they didn't provide rest breaks, and they didn't reimburse for business expenses. And then the lawsuit goes on to say that many of these poor working conditions were due to the Glass House requirement for employees to process 4 pounds of cannabis per day, which those of you who are like, is that normal? I don't really know the norm for cannabis farms. I didn't either. So I can tell you, because we looked it up, that's double the normal output for marijuana farms. You tell me what you are more offended by. ICE coming and cleaning up the streets, or companies in California trying to take advantage of slave labor. I mean, listen, I'm not for unions, but the one thing that I will contend that the unions were good for was making sure that we did create federal regulations that people who go to work in factories or in fields or on farms or what have you, at least get breaks. You at least have human conditions in these places. The left clearly doesn't want that to apply to illegals. So you tell me what you're more offended by. And then, of course, you have the Democrats' reaction, all right? I'd like to show this footage that was obtained by ABC that shows this is what it appears to show, a protester at the farm opening fire on authorities. Okay, well, that's a little violent. Remember, just on Tuesday, we talked about these 2 recent shootings in McAllen and Alvarado, Texas, both of these shootings targeting ICE agents. Authorities have made over 10 arrests of Antifa members. By the way, the Alvarado shooter's still on the loose. This is Benjamin Song, 32 years old, from this area, actually, Dallas, Texas, and 4 of the firearms used in that particular attack were purchased by this man himself. What a freaking loser. By the way, I do have a weird connection with this guy I'd like to get into after the break. We're going to bring in our guest. First, we want to thank our sponsor. Guys, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to show you this. You're going to be like, no way, Sarah. Oh, yeah. I was this close. A brush with death. Because this guy clearly is a violent extremist. I thought he was just a LARPer. Maybe he's not. He really is a violent extremist. Clearly, he's wanted by the FBI. I was this close. Thank God we made it. First one, thank our sponsor, Done with Debt. So the American dream has changed, all right? Because of, prior administration's policies, maybe Joe Biden, Barack Obama, for most Americans, the real dream these days is just getting yourself out of debt. So if you're feeling the pressure from rising prices that you had under the Biden administration, you've got credit card debt that you've racked up, you just are trying to stay afloat, make it right. I want you to know there is a way out with Done with Debt. They have one goal, break you free from debt permanently. They're not pushing loans or bankruptcy, but they do have really tough negotiators that go straight to your creditors, and they are going to work with them to slash what you owe, wipe out interest, eliminate penalties, and they're not going to stop until your debt is gone. So if you're struggling with debt, go talk to them. This is completely free. What I'm about to tell you to do is completely free. Visit donewithdebt.com. Talk to one of their experts. There's no reason not to do it if you are in debt. Just listen to what they have to say. You can decide if it's worth your time to proceed, but just listen to them, okay? Donewithdebt.com, totally free. Go there, talk with one of their experts. Donewithdebt.com. Welcome to the show this wonderful Friday. Eric July, of course, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Rippaverse Comics, which you guys all need to go check out. Which, by the way, Eric, we're not going to talk about it yet, but I am happy that you're on today because I do want to talk to you about James Gunn and Superman and that whole thing that's coming out. We're supposed to be very immigrant friendly these days with Superman being an alien and all, but we'll get to that. I want to get your thoughts on all of this going on in California with the raiding of I wish there was a better term to use than raid, because I don't like saying raid. I know that there's a negative connotation to it. ICE is just doing their jobs, trying to get these illegals out of our country. The only word that we're allowed to use, though, is raid. So they raided this farm. They found all of these children who were, heavily exploited, child labor, breaking all sorts of laws. And somehow Donald Trump is still the bad guy in all of this, and not the company that was doing all of the child labor and slave labor exploitation, and not Gavin Newsom for covering for it. Somehow it's Donald Trump, because the left has reacted very violently to this, not just yesterday with the guy that was shooting after the raids, but also like in McAllen, in Alvarado, Texas, in these places at these ICE facilities. The Democrats, the left, is taking the fight to the ICE facilities. And as much as they call us violent extremists, I don't know. I think it takes a pretty violent extremist to show up at an ICE facility and start shooting and come up with some plan to we're going to try to distract them with these flyers. But really, we're going to come in guns blazing. And so I just wanted to throw in this Benjamin Song that I just brought up, who is still wanted by the FBI. He actually, he's from this area. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a longtime Antifa member from this area. What a loser. Look at that loser's face. And he actually has, the FBI released footage of him teaching other Antifa members military combat tactics. Here's some of that.
Today we're going to cover a lot of things, but the first thing we're going to cover is moving with other people around, right? So the first two concepts are going to be fire before flesh and getting online. Okay, so if we both need to shoot at something or in a direction, we want to make sure we do it safely, right? We don't want to be shooting behind each other and accidentally shoot each other. It's way easier to do friendly fire because this is such a big space, right? Whatever you're aiming at is way down there. It's a much smaller area. There's way fewer angles to it. There's a ton of angles to your buddy here, right? So there's two main ways to avoid that. which are both basically don't shoot from behind each other. Okay?
Don't shoot from behind each other. So Eric, I mentioned this guy. You know, you run into these people when you go to these protests, or you go for me, I infiltrate on the inside and I go past these people, and then sometimes I get kicked out and I end up right in front of them. And typically I'm like, these are LARPers. Like, they've got video game, consoles on. They've got it's all fake and gay.
Yeah.
But this guy in particular, I ran into multiple times, one of which was November of 2022 at a bookstore in Denton here in Texas, where they were having a kids LGBTQIA+ book thing. And Antifa was out there protecting the bookshop. And that's actually Benjamin's song right there on the right of me.
Snaps.
With the little rainbow flag thing going on his shoulder. That was actually him. And I was making fun of him. And I'm like, damn, maybe I should have taken him more seriously, because now he's on the FBI's most wanted list for going and shooting at an ICE facility. Again, look at that loser. You're such a loser, dude. You're a freaking loser.
Wow. That's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Good luck to that guy. But no, it has been a subject, immigration. I've spoke about this on the show several times, in that various demographics, and I'm using that term loosely because I'm not just applying to ethnic background and all that. You can just cross political lines. There's a lot of different groups that typically or historically had favored immigration, at least in a mass level, or didn't think there was a such thing as illegal. Well, that has since changed a lot, especially, and you got evidence of that with the last election cycle, okay? So, as we've always said, elections do have consequences, for sure. And now there are folks that this was actually the issue for a lot of people that they voted on, right? Like, that was the primary determinant. You had one president or one person running for president that was like, we're going to specifically address this issue. This is how we're going to do it, versus the other one that was more lenient. So you had a lot of folks go get behind Trump for that very reason. So whether they didn't consider it or did consider it irrelevant, this is how it looks. If you're going to address the issue, if you feel this is one, this is how it's going to look. They're everywhere. Okay, I'm not saying that call them like cockroaches or anything. I'm just saying in the literal sense, they're everywhere.
They're a little like cockroaches. I can say it.
But they're everywhere, right? Yeah. They're everywhere. And it has been no secret that, especially in the more agricultural industries, especially with some of the big food supply companies and farms, they've employed these people, okay? And it's been no secret. It's a significant amount. I remember a show maybe a few weeks ago, I was rattling off some of those percentage numbers. A significant percentage of them are undocumented, okay? That work for this. So if you are running on a position that, hey, we have to address this issue, and y'all gonna have to go back, right, and figure this out. Well, this is what it looks like, right? This is exactly what it looks like, and it might be horrifying to you that you see, well, the enforcement of it is like, oh yeah, we're coming to get you. You do with that information whatever you may, but we're coming to get you. Well, this is what it looks like. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people react to that, as some have already reacted like, well, damn, this is wild. And also it's kind of pulling back that curtain, if you will, because I don't think a lot of people did know maybe that some of these youngsters that are working on these farms. And look, I have zero issue with. I've been one of the big proponents against minimum wage laws, and even I was when I was young, it was nothing for young people to get out there and go work, especially earn some extra money. But it's kind of screwed up that it's illegal for your teenager to work, and now you have these big mega corporate entities or these mega corporate farm companies that are employing youngsters to work on their fields. It's pretty jacked up. Right? That's pretty jacked. There's no other way to put that. And be it economically, ethically, whatever you want to say it's pretty jacked up.
Well, especially a company who I just went through it. They're involved in a lawsuit that alleges that they don't give breaks to people. They don't give overtime. They are working these people to the bone. And again, I agree with you. We can have that conversation on minimum wage. I don't think that it should exist. But this is the left's issue,
Yeah,
right? They
exactly.
claim that they care about
That's why
workers.
it's important to bring it up.
Yeah, they're the ones who care about the workers. The Republicans are the ones who are this evil upper class who doesn't care about workers. They don't care about labor and all this. And it's like, well, I don't know. I think it's pretty shitty to bring a bunch of kids here, unaccompanied minors, and sign them up to go work in fields for like little pay, no breaks, no meals, no reimbursement, no overtime. I mean, I think that's really shitty. Like, so you guys call themselves the Bleeding Heart Liberals. You know, you call yourselves the Bleeding Heart Liberals. I don't know. Like, I think that that's really shitty to do to not just an illegal, but a child who's here illegally, you know, regardless of their legality status. That's just shitty to do. But then you have, Eric, your other point, which is, of course, people voted for this. And this is what we talked about leading up to the election was just like, guys, the left is going to do their best. They're going to get the pictures of the people crying, the families. Oh, gosh, they're torn up because their family member has to leave. But in actuality, this is how it has to be done. This is part of it. And it's not always pretty.
No, it's not.
It doesn't always look good, right? Like, it's not pretty, but that doesn't mean that it's not necessary. And you have bozos like Jessica Tarlov on Fox News. I saw this on my X feed that she was trying to make the point that people who voted for President Trump, they didn't vote for people to show up at Home Depots, she said. They didn't vote for people to show up at immigration courts. I'm like, well, hell, I didn't. Yes, I did.
The reason
I
why
voted for them to show up wherever the hell they need to.
Well, the reason why is because they wanted to pretend as if the people were only in support of getting rid of like the more blatant criminals.
The murderers.
Yeah,
well, the left doesn't even want to get rid of them.
Well, that's to be fair, yes. That you're not wrong. Or gang affiliated Maryland.
Yeah, they don't even want to get rid of them.
Right. So, but no, like that's where they're trying to kind of take the conversation because they're trying to pigeonhole people into that group that's like, well, it's only about those illegals or undocumented that have displayed this sort of bad behavior. Yep. But if you're being consistent just on the immigration side of thing, right, then, well, it doesn't really matter what they do after they got here. They got here in a way that is illegal, and therefore they're going to have to get up out of here. And there is, whether she knows it or not, there is a significant, amount of people, voters, right, where that was what they voted for. They said, we voted for mass deportation. That's what you get. You get mass deportation. A lot of them are going to be folks that are maybe hanging out at Home Depot or working on some farm or what have you. Yeah, those are going to be the ones that got rid of it. To your point, it's the point I brought up. That's how it looks.
Yep. It's not pretty.
It's not. And
they're going to try to capitalize on that.
Right. Of course, that's what they're going to try to do. And they're going to try to guilt trip everybody into maybe supporting, especially with the amnesty thing that's going around and being floated out there that people are like, Trump, you better not. And I think that might break this whole entire, at least cause a significant, there's been some interesting things that have happened over the week that this decisions that these administrations have made. That would be one that I think might do them in, right? If they were just like, okay, well, the farms, they've convinced us, right? We're granting amnesty to all these farm workers or hold people in hold. It's like you have construction, there's the obviously farm, food supply industry, and the hotel industries where that's where most of them are working among. Yeah,
it's just, it's too arbitrary,
right?
It's like, well, but they still broke the same laws that all of the other ones broke when they came here. It's the same thing where it's like they all have to go back is what we say. And our good friend Logan Hall says that often. And it's like, I mean, you have to understand at least where someone is coming from who holds that view, because if you want to put a cap, what is the cap? 10 years? 20 years, however long you've been here, if you hit a certain point, then you can be here. Well, what's the difference between someone who's been here 10 years and 9 years? What's the difference from someone who's been here, 10 years, 9 years, and 364 days? Right. I mean, you understand my point. Like, it all becomes arbitrary at a certain point. You broke the law coming here. You knew you were breaking the law coming here. You tried to exploit our system, and all you've done since then is been given things.
Oh, yeah.
And being rewarded for it. And that needs to end.
And I want people to understand like what you're talking about with that, because yes, while there is absolute mountains of evidence in which there's some form of welfare statism where there's like actual transfer of money, right, into the hands of people that are here, not here illegally, or are here illegally.
Yeah.
The issue that I have, and I've historically had this, is that they actually get to take advantage of a lot of things that we don't get to take advantage of by being essentially untaxed. So even if they are getting paid little to nothing, when it's all said and done, are they? Because Who's getting their money on? The government isn't getting their money hands on that, so they're not taxed. Yet the stuff that we're taxed to pay for, which we shouldn't be, you guys know, I know it's theft, it's extortion, it's all of the evil things. Tax is an evil subject matter. That said, we're taxed. They're not.
Yeah. And we're taxed to pay for their shit.
So that's what happens, right? Because especially when you look at these general services that the government has monopolized, in which they offer to these folks, well, that just simply means, that's a pretty way to put it, we're paying for their stuff. Yep. That's only the producer is paying for them, right? And I'm against welfare statism domestically, and I'm against it whether it be giving it to foreign aid or in this form, right, with what's happening with regards to immigration. So even just economically, it is the system in itself is unfair. The great Hans-Hammer Hopper said, like, if you're going to have a government exist, if you're going to have a border exist, there's going to be injustices that are done on either side. It's just a matter of trying to minimize that. Mm-hmm. So I don't care how you feel on the subject of immigration, you have to admit that it's unfair. Yeah. That I'm getting my balls taxed off and they're not.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back. So let's talk about this new Superman movie. While we do that, at the beginning of this conversation, I do want to remind people, if you are tired of wokeness in Hollywood, in entertainment, in culture, and you're looking for something that just, you're like, I don't want to read about like a gay superhero. I don't want to read about I just want pure entertainment. Might I suggest that you check out Eric's Rippaverse.com, where he's got comics that they don't do any of that shit. Now, they're not like they don't, you tell me. Yeah. They're not trying to influence you in that way at all. It's just supposed to be entertainment.
It's not the anti, right? It's the not.
Right. At all.
Is what we're trying to do. It's like we want to entertain you. And that's all we're here to do. Ironically enough, today is July the 11th, which marks 3 years to the date.
Wow.
The Rippaverse launch. I saw one launched July 11th of 2022.
That's crazy.
And today is Rippaverse Day. We actually put out a big omnibus that's like 1,300, which is kind of hard to conceptualize. We put out 1,300 pages worth of comic books, but we have a big collection that we dropped today. That's everything that we've released up to this point. It's Rippaverse years 1 through 3 that you can go grab right now. But yes, that's what it's about. It used to be what those companies were about. It's more about the universal truths and having entertainment. If you're going to have political elements of your in your like world, right? It's weaved in a manner that is digestible by anybody for the most part. And again, it's based upon universal truths, not trying to beat your audience over the head with your individual political positions, which is something that I know we're talking DC, but it's something that the great Stan Lee was pretty open about. Like, he never wanted if he was going to have something social that was there, he wanted underlaying the plot, not to make the audience feel like he was beating them over the head.
Right, exactly. And so now what I've heard about this Superman movie, which I'm still not going to see it, but I've heard that the movie itself doesn't necessarily inject that type of
what we're hearing though.
Yeah, wokeism. However, the movie maker, James Gunn, he previously had said that Superman is actually an immigrant story. So it's because he's an alien, I guess. So this is actually about an immigrant. And I want to play what co-star Nathan, how do you say it? Fillion? Nathan Fillion? Steven? Any takers?
Sure, why not?
I don't actually care. Here's what he had to say about the backlash on the red carpet.
James has said that Superman is an immigrant story, that it is political. MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug. It's just a movie, guys. It's just a movie.
No, see, but I wish that it was just a movie, because that's what we want. Like, I just want a movie, but you tell me if it's just a movie, why James Gunn changed the Superman. I mean, it's like the famous line from Superman, truth, justice, and the American way. He changed to truth, justice, and the human way. I mean, if it's just a movie, Why are you going to change it? So it's like, it's almost like this is gaslighting, that they're like, oh, what's wrong with you, MAGA? It's just a movie. Like, no, I wish that it was just a movie, but you guys are the ones who, if you're not injecting it directly into the movie, you're injecting it into the conversation around the movie.
Right.
And then it makes people be like, you know what? I don't even want to see your stupid movie.
Well, that's what, shout out Dean Cain, who obviously is my Superman growing up, is also the voice of the Horseman over at Rippaverse. Big shout out to him. And he was talking about this on Piers Morgan's show with our good friend Rhetoric, as well as Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, and they were talking about what Dean Cain had brought up was like, even just invoking that is going to make a lot of people be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a
Exactly.
Superman, right? Dean Cain is a Superman. And he's saying, like, people are going to check out automatically. Now, I do want to be fair. Variety, who that's the person, or that gay dude with Variety, is going
What
around.
makes you think he's gay?
Yeah.
Hello.
Pretty flamboyant. But it was bait. For sure. He went and asked that same question to several people that were on the red carpet. Actually, on the carpet itself, James did the best to try to like talk around it, whereas the other, for the most part, co-stars were, that was kind of their approach, like, hey, screw the MAGA guys or what have you. But yeah, like, people are sensitive on this subject matter, and rightfully so. When you look at the comic book industry and comic book movies over the last several years and what's happened, they've used this as a vehicle for their own political and social political agendas. It's no secret. And unfortunately, they will take a character, even if, again, I'm not saying that the movie itself did that, because from all accounts, all the people, my co-star or my co-host, and as he went to go see it, I believe he was saying the same thing. Like, it's not like woke per se. Some of them don't like it, make no mistake, but it's not quote unquote woke. But the issue here is the conversation. We're still having this conversation, and that is the context matters with that. Yep. And especially with regards to Superman, if you understand what DC has been doing in their comics as of late, if you don't know it, Superman's son is now gay. In fact, the colorist for the colorist, it's really jacked up if you read into what happened, because he used to be like a kid, right?
Yeah.
They specifically aged him up, still a minor, but they aged him up. He's like in high school now, and aged him up, and now he's gay.
No,
for sure, yes. So that was the project that I got Gabe El Taib from, because he was the colorist on that project, and that did it for him. He was the colorist for Superman at the time.
God.
He's like, man, I can't do this. I'm out. And he ended up coloring I Sum 1 and beyond. But yeah, all that considered, they will take, because they've proven that they will do that, all of your beloved characters and try to pretend as if it's either always been that way, right? Mm-hmm. And then trying to gaslight everybody else, right? So you have these guys that are obviously pro-illegal immigration and what have you. Of course, they're going to use Superman as a vehicle to say, hey, this is a character you guys like. Well, he's ours. He represents what we all want. I was like, I don't think any of y'all are advocating aliens falling out of the sky.
He's from planet Krypton. Are we really going to pretend like
exactly.
this is an immigrant story?
I don't think.
What?
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a disingenuous way to even look at that, right? He's a literal baby crashing in. He gets raised by this Midwestern. Obviously, the implications there that they're probably red. His parents are red. I don't know what. Considering where Superman was raised, I don't think that's the store traditional values. Traditional American values. You don't get to hijack Superman and try to make it about you, right? No, you don't get to do that. But that's what they do. They're absolute bastards. And the Access media, which is who I would take exception to when looking at that clip, are doing exactly what they have done. And that is trying to bait these studios, try to bait these companies into adopting their rhetoric, adopting their ideology. They weren't as successful as they had been in the past, and I think that's because it's gotten so ugly. They failed. They've bombed. A lot of these movies that have injected this stuff more openly have absolutely tanked. Marvel has taken a massive hit. Comic book movies in general have taken a massive hit in adopting this, and you think at some point they'd be like, okay, we got to pivot.
That's what I keep waiting for. Well, but I wonder if the studios have decided, okay, we do have to pivot, but then you've got the people like James Gunn, because to your point, That's what people who I have seen the movie are like. It was not woke at all. They didn't have any sort of ideology in there. It was just genuinely a good movie. So you can try your damnedest to even make a good movie if you are one of these movie studios who is like, shit, we got to stop with the woke stuff. People don't want to see it. Let's just make a good movie and put it out there and pray to God that these actors and directors don't say something to screw it up, like Rachel What's-Her-Face from Snow White. Yeah. So I wonder if they're trying to create just a good movie, and then you've got all of these woke retards in Hollywood who can't help but screw it up with something that they say.
Well, yeah, that's because it's a more I generally hate the term systemic, but it is a systemic issue with Hollywood. It's the access media is in on it, all the media is in on it, and obviously you have this ideology that's been adopted by the ones that are still left in Hollywood. For the most part, they either are in on it, part of that hive mind, or they're in secrecy, and they're just so they can try to keep a job and remain employed. But this infestation didn't start like last year, so it runs very, very deep. So even if you have a couple of guys that are in there that are like, man, look, financially, this has killed us. This has not been a lucrative venture. The people that we're trying to appeal to, these weirdos, don't even have money. They don't have families. They're not the ones buying the tickets. They're not the ones buying the comic books. They're not the ones that we should be appealing to. And this has been a failed effort. Yeah, you would think that makes sense, but yeah, when you also are bringing people in and also giving the folks you give access to first access to are among the same types, even if you intentionally try to avoid this nonsense, it's gonna find its way here, like it does right now, where you have a guy that you gave access to, the red carpet working for Variety, which is access media like head honcho right there, them and the Hollywood Reporter and all and such, and you gave them a microphone to put in front of all of your folks to ask this bait-ass question. That's on you.
Yep. What do you think of MAGA?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you going on about, bro?
Oh, my gosh. Can you just not just make it about the movie? By the way, I was looking at this cast. I don't know any of these people. So I don't either. I'm glad to hear you say that. I would love to hear from the viewers. Clark Kent, David Cornsweet.
I didn't know of any. To be fair, I'm not the biggest movie buff, I guess, but yeah, I never knew who any of those.
Do we know Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane? Couldn't tell you. Nicholas Hoult, Lex Luthor. I'm like, all of these people. I'm like, I have no idea who any of these people are. Nathan Fillion, I have heard of. He was in what was that movie he was in? I don't remember, but look, and then Wendell Pierce is like the only one that I know.
I don't know most of those guys, which I'm not against. Like, if they're going to be adapting a comic book character, I want you to embody who the character actually is.
Oh, sure. But it better be like a damn good movie and good marketing if you're going to have a bunch of people who nobody knows.
That's what you have to do. And I guess we're going to see. I haven't seen the latest box office projections with this, but a lot of people, this is DC's new universe, right? They axed the other one. Snyderverse is no more. So this is their first movie with the James Gunn universe, which I thought was like the worst person to help lead this.
Wasn't he in trouble for like
because he I don't know. It wasn't that. Well, he might have been, but what he was really in trouble for was those old tweets that were like,
oh,
I mean, look, I get it. The 2010s were an interesting time, but not some of those. There was some stuff that he was saying that I don't know if it was ever appropriate, especially some of the stuff that he was saying about the youngsters and like, yeah. So if you go look those up, America, those James Gunns, they're ugly. But that's where he got his ass in trouble because some people uncovered those. And it was a little brief apology tour, and they let him right back in like it had never happened. But some of those tweets were
isn't it so interesting how they pick and choose who gets let back into the club and who doesn't? Yeah. It is so fascinating to me. Jokes surrounding pedophilia and sexual assault.
It was the pedophilic one were ugly, bro. If you go read some of those things, it's gonna make it uncomfortable. And like I said, I understand the 2010s. I was in my 20s during that time, so I was the one dropping the slurs and all the goofy stuff back there. But it wasn't like that about children.
Right.
That was extra, man. I don't know when that ever was appropriate, but he was just tweeting them out. That's like it was nothing.
Crazy.
Yeah, like I don't think he was the guy for that. That's a completely different story. But this is their first movie in the universe. So it's a lot riding on it. It's a whole lot riding on this movie.
Well, just really quick before we go, apparently the actor who plays Mr. Terrific, he's another one Eddie Gathegi, said about his character. The face mask was something that I struggled with the very first time that I saw it in the comics, not understanding who Mr. Terrific was. The face mask resembled blackface to me.
It's Mr. Terrific. See, this is why I despise.
Go
And
ahead.
I used to be that guy. You know, a lot of people know me because I was the comic book guy doing all the reviews and giving everybody the history. Look, that's who the character is. He has the black basically makeup.
But he's black.
Yeah, he's black, so it
He's
can't
already
be
black. How is
So you
it
get
blackface? It's blacker face?
I don't know.
Like,
It's the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, that was an interesting comment. That's the first time I'd ever heard that. But hilariously enough, some, at least from what I'm seeing in the online conversation, they said the movie seems to be more about him than it is Superman. He's the one, he ends up, spoiler alert, ends up like saving Lois Lane. And, he is like a very smart character in the comic. That's not like necessarily out of character. But that's what the people that didn't like this movie took exception to. Superman, he's crying, doing the stuff that we've despised, with especially with how Snyder had handled though Henry Cavill, to me, was like a perfect casting for who Superman was, but he wasn't helped out.
Wait, this Superman's a bitch or what?
Yeah, apparently that's much of what you get. That a lot of people had gripes with this movie, but they looked at Mr. Terrific as more of the bright side of it because he seemed to be the one that was like competent and running around. But it's like it's not Mr. Terrific's movie,
right? It was not supposed to be.
yeah. Which again. Don't know. That's all it seems to be what James Gunn can do. He did it with Guardians of the Galaxy. He has to have this ensemble of all these other characters to support his like main character, whoever that's going to be, to the point to where it doesn't feel like it's even his movie. But that's what I'm not going to sit up and act like I'm being an expert here because I haven't seen the actual movie. But from the folks that I trust and the folks that I've seen talk about it, that was one the ones that did. There's some that like it, but the ones that didn't like it, that was what they took exception to.
Yeah. So you decide if you're going to go see it or not, I guess. I'm going to pass on that. We'll be right
and
back.
I'm a DC guy, so.
Yeah. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the gift that keeps on giving. Here from Texas. Yes, we are ashamed of her. But you know what? It's fine. If the stain on the Democrat Party has to come from Texas, then that will be what it is. And now the latest is she is claiming that MAGA Republicans are actually the ones who are responsible for the assassination attempts against President Trump. Watch.
The violence doesn't come from Democrats, just to be clear. I mean, obviously anyone can be a criminal, but it is MAGA. It's specifically MAGA faction. Like, I don't think traditional Republicans are getting engaged in all of this, but like, even when we look at, and they don't talk about the assassination attempts anymore that took place with Donald Trump, but these were Trump supporters, right? As well as this most recent situation, they tried to flip it and say, oh, the leftists are, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense, right? But it's only like MAGA that does this.
Well, one thing she said is correct. Nothing that she said makes sense. Nothing that she said there makes sense. Stephen, can you pull up the man shooting behind him from just the beginning of the show? You tell me what that is. If not violence, he turns around as a protester who's firing a gun at ICE agents in a long history in the last several weeks, months of violent leftist protesters firing at ICE agents. And this dumb bitch wants to come on and say that this is, what, just MAGA? It's just MAGA.
Yeah, that is gaslighting. I don't often use the term, but what else can I do to describe what she's doing? Or what can I say to describe what she's doing? Because she's basically trying to tell the audience, hey, don't believe your lying eyes, or even experience or any of this. Look, sure, you may find in an isolated event, but just looking at this objectively, and I'm not the MAGA guy at all.
No.
But just looking at this objectively, you know that the violence, generally speaking, especially on political issues, is coming from leftists.
Coming from them.
I guess there's no secret about that. Like that's just what has historically happened, especially modern. I'm not saying, again, there aren't examples of maybe otherwise, but, you know, we've seen that that's just not the case. But these types count on you not looking shit up. They count on this, I don't know, other dimension. Especially we're talking about comic books, the last maybe some other else world or something that she's living in, where she sees a bunch of MAGA hat wearing folks that are going up shooting places up. Maybe that's what again, you have to be in a different dimension. And maybe that's where she comes from, because she's not from Dallas, by the way, which she represents, the area I grew up in. She's from like Missouri or some shit, which, never mind that. All I'm saying.
She went to like some girls' prep school there too.
Yeah, something like that. Like, she's not from here. But nonetheless, what the hell is she talking about?
I don't even think she knows. And yet, here's what is interesting, Eric. And yet, there was a poll that just came out showing all of the preferred Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate in Texas. Now, again, this is just for Democrats, so don't be worried that she's going to win. But she is leading that pack at 35%. Colin Allred, 20%. Beto, Robert Francis O'Rourke, 13%. Still, well, I mean, he's like, listen, if people want me, I'll come back. Please, for the love of God, bring him back. I can't wait to troll him more. Joaquin Castro, 13%, and Not Sure, 18%. So it's like, the Democrats are like, no, we need more of her. And that's where we can agree. I would say, yes, you do need more of her. I beg of you, please continue putting her out on a pedestal, parading her around all across the country, because I have to believe in my heart of hearts that Democrats nationwide are they're not gonna jump on the Jasmine Crockett bandwagon.
I don't think so either, especially like any of the older cats, because they're going to be looking at her like, I know she's more representative of maybe the younger generations that may be the ones that, if there are to be folks that get behind her. But yeah, she doesn't carry herself as the the brightest bulb in the tree, as the old saying goes. But that's not because I think she's stupid. I think, though, look, I'm not going to argue against anybody that makes that claim about her. But I just think that she knows that. And that apparently is appealing to some people, so she puts on that front. Which in that case, that's just politics.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not wrong. I just wonder, it'll be interesting to see, because she was a completely different person when she ran for office.
We talked about this.
Yeah,
she
speaks very eloquently.
That's why I said I don't think she's dumb. I don't think she's dumb.
And that's
what I
wonder.
Dumb.
Yeah. She plays the part that she thinks will get her. But then you have to wonder how many of the people that she represents are like, all right, already. Like, you ran as a totally different person. Right. Now you're making a mockery of the office. You have to wonder how many people are going to be kind of done with it. But for now, I'll take all the conversations I can about Jasmine Crockett and how epically retarded she is. If they want her to be the new face, the Jasmine Crockett's, the AOCs of the world, if they want her to be the new face of the Democrat Party, who am I, Eric? Who am I to take that away from them?
Interrupt the
you know?
Make the mistake.
Exactly. Make sure that you go to Rippaverse.com. Happy anniversary, Eric, on that. We'll see you guys Monday.